She didn't come to that door just to leave her puppy. She came because she had reached the very last edge of herself. The storm had already claimed the night when she stepped onto the wide wooden porch of the ranch house. Rain slamming down so hard it felt like the sky itself was angry at anyone who dared to keep living. Her clothes clung to her thin body, soaked through, heavy with cold, but she barely noticed. What she noticed was the light spilling out from behind the door, warm, steady, alive. It felt cruel, like something she no longer belonged to. Her hands trembled as she lowered the wicker basket to the ground. Inside, the small puppy shifted and whimpered, its tiny body pressing toward her warmth, as if it knew this moment mattered. She swallowed hard, crouching beside it, brushing her fingers gently through its damp fur. She had named him once, whispered his name in the dark when the nights felt too long. But names made things harder to leave behind. "I'm sorry," she whispered, though she wasn't sure who she was apologizing to anymore. She slid the folded letter beneath the blanket, right beside the puppy's chest, and kissed the top of his head. Her tears mixed with the rain, disappearing as soon as they fell. She stood, hesitated for one unbearable second, then turned away before her legs could give out. Every step down the porch felt like walking out of her own life. The door opened moments later. The rich cowboy stood frozen, the storm rushing past him into the doorway as he stared down at the basket. He hadn't been expecting visitors, certainly not this. He knelt slowly, lifting the basket into the light, his brow tightening as the puppy looked up at him with wide, trusting eyes. Then the letter slipped free, landing against his boot. He picked it up. The paper was thin, the handwriting uneven, like it had been written by someone whose hands refused to stop shaking. The rain had already begun to blur the ink, but the words were still painfully clear. "Please take my puppy. I can't anymore. I'm sorry." That was all. No name, no explanation, just an apology for existing. Something deep inside him cracked open. The storm faded into the background as memories he had buried years ago surged back without warning. He remembered the nights when his house had felt just as empty as the road beyond his gates. The nights when success meant nothing, when money couldn't fill the space left by loss, when breathing felt more like habit than hope. He had written letters like this once, letters he never sent, because he didn't believe anyone would read them. The puppy pressed against his leg, trembling. "This isn't abandonment," he muttered under his breath. "This is goodbye." Without stopping to think, without grabbing a coat, he stepped back into the storm. The wind fought him with brutal force, rain stinging his face, mud grabbing at his boots as if the earth itself wanted to hold him back. He didn't care. He followed instinct, following the direction she had gone, his heart pounding harder with every empty stretch of road. He shouted into the darkness, his voice tearing itself apart against the thunder. He didn't even know her name. But he called anyway because sometimes the act of calling was all that stood between life and silence. He searched the bridge first, his chest tightening when he found nothing but rushing water, then the tree line, then the bend in the road where the shadows grew thick and cruel. With every place she wasn't, fear grew heavier, more urgent. Somewhere between the rain and the darkness, he realized the truth. This wasn't just about saving her. This was about saving himself. When he finally saw her near the river, the world seemed to hold its breath. She stood dangerously close to the edge, soaked through, hair plastered to her face, staring into the swollen water like it was calling her by name. She didn't turn when he approached. She didn't need to. People who are ready to disappear always know when someone comes to pull them back. "I didn't mean to cause trouble," she said quietly, her voice flat, hollow. "I just wanted him to live." The words hit harder than the storm. She told him she was tired, tired of fighting, tired of being strong, tired of waking up every day feeling like a burden no matter how hard she tried not to be. She said she had run out of reasons. Her voice didn't shake. That terrified him more than tears ever could. That's when he spoke, not as a rescuer, not as a rich man, but as someone who had stood exactly where she was standing. He told her about the night he lost his family, about the silence that followed success, about how money kept the ranch standing but couldn't stop his heart from collapsing inward. He admitted there were days he stayed alive only because habit was stronger than hope, and nights when disappearing felt peaceful. "You don't end your life because the world hurts you," he said quietly. "You stay because leaving means letting the pain win." For the first time, she turned and looked at him, and for the first time, she didn't look invisible. Chapter 2. When Staying Became a Choice. The storm began to weaken as they made their way back to the ranch, though the air still carried the weight of everything that had almost been lost. She walked slowly, exhaustion pressing into her bones, fear still clinging to her like wet fabric. More than once she tried to stop, tried to pull away, but he stayed close, close enough to catch her if she fell, close enough to remind her she wasn't alone. At the house, warmth wrapped around her in a way she had forgotten existed. The puppy barked softly when he saw her, tail wagging furiously as if nothing bad had ever happened. She collapsed to her knees, pulling him close, sobbing into his fur as the reality of what she had almost done finally broke through. She promised out loud that she wouldn't hurt herself. The days that followed were slow, unfamiliar, and strangely gentle. She stayed. At first, just because she was too tired to leave. Then because the puppy needed her. Then because the quiet didn't feel threatening anymore. She cooked simple meals. She cleaned. She learned the rhythm of the ranch, the creaking floors, the early mornings, the way the sky looked endless at sunrise. The cowboy never pushed, never demanded explanations. He shared meals with her in comfortable silence, listened when she spoke, and stayed quiet when she didn't. He treated her presence not as charity, but as something natural, something earned. Weeks passed. Healing didn't arrive loudly. It arrived as routine, as warmth, as laughter that surprised her when it escaped her mouth. Some nights were still hard. Some mornings still felt heavy, but she no longer faced them alone. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the land gold, they stood together on the porch where everything had begun. The puppy lay between them, asleep and safe. The storm was gone, leaving behind a sky that felt wide with possibility. She looked at the road, then back at him. "I think I want to live," she said softly. He nodded, understanding more than words could ever explain. That puppy hadn't just survived the storm. He had saved 2 broken lives. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe. And tell us, where are you watching from? Because your one comment might be the hope someone else is waiting for.